baseball, 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 baseball.
Oh, with the big mic. Oh, okay. All right, yeah. Okay, now I get it.
We got a lightning strike, boys. What happened over there, Grego? We had a little lightning strike right outside the window.
All right. Here's a tip for all these Americano League teams.
Wait, you said tip.
Yeah, tip.
Okay.
With a P.
Keep jamming.
The ticket, colon, nothing but a big Gen X jerk-off sale.
Is this a cool night or what?
Although somebody would hear that and go, bullshit.
I'm back, bitches.
Well, hey, once again, everybody. It is another episode of Your Dark Companion, in your eyes, in your ears, and wherever you may want it. We're here for you. Once again, this is Monday, the 18th of November. We could come on here and start talking about the Cowboys, but they haven't done their dirty business yet this week. They will do that tonight. Anyway, that's not what we're trying to do here. We're trying to uplift everybody, not bring everybody down. And I think we've got just the person to do this, because there are some places around our fair burg of Dallas that are really, really cool, really, really neat. And I remember when the place we're going to talk about today was starting to be discussed and starting to come about in its formative stages. And I remember a lot of, wait a minute, we're going to what? We can't do that. That's the craziest idea I've ever heard. That was largely what people thought about it out there in Gen Pop, and I would imagine that a lot of similar conversations were held between those who wound up being involved in this thing. But what we're talking about is Klyde Warren Park. Klyde Warren Park on the north side of downtown, the bridge, if you will, between downtown and uptown. And it's been around for a number of years, so long that it seems like it's been there forever. But believe me, it has not. And there was a lot of, like I say, a lot of back and forth, shall we say, among civic leaders at the time, thinking that, yes, this is a very forward-thinking idea. We should push onward. And another faction saying, this is the craziest thing I've ever heard of. You can't do that. Well, today we have the president and CEO of Klyde Warren Park, Kit Sawyer, with us today.
Yay.
Glad to be here.
Glad to have you here. Now, Kit, I'm looking over her bio, and when it comes to civic endeavors, charity type stuff, things like that, your resume would stun a mastodon. I mean, if it has happened here in our Fairburg, if it's a big event that came to our Fairburg, like, shall we say, the 2014 men's basketball tournament in the NCAA, that's one that jumps off the Final Four, as it's sometimes called. That's one that jumps off the page here. The Emmitt Smith Celebrity Invitational. Many, many large-scale events, big happenings, civic organizations. This has been your life, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has been. I mean, I'm a native Dallasite, and it's really been fun to watch as you've watched Dallas change over the past 20, 30 years since growing up here. So it's been fun to be able to get involved in lots of different ways. And the crazy thing is to think that I'm old enough now that I'm one of the people who's really involved in things that are going on in the city, right? Because we're always like, who are those people? And it got a little scary when we became those people.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, now those people are you.
Yeah, exactly. I
They're
really
us.
don't know as much as I'm pretending to. So how's this going to go?
So at what point in your life did you start thinking about doing stuff like this? Or did you think about it? Is this something that you just kind of a place where you kind of wound up in, or were you headed this way all along?
I think I was indirectly headed this way all along, but things like this didn't necessarily exist, right? When I was growing up. So my parents were divorced when I was little, and I lived with my mom growing up in Dallas. And, she said, you need to have a career. And back when she was growing up, women could be teachers or nurses. And when I was growing up, women could be doctors or lawyers. And she thought, well, you definitely can't be a doctor. That was not my fastball. And so she said, so you need to be a lawyer. So I was trained to go to high school, go to college, and then go to law school, which I did. I ended up, so I got my law degree. I passed the bar. I met my husband there, and he actually practiced for a little while, but I never ended up practicing. I was always very involved in school. And when I was in college, I was very involved in some things that then made me kind of, once I graduated from law school, I thought, I just don't want to practice law. I'd heard at SMU, and I went to law school at SMU.
Yeah.
And SMU had the Tate Lecture Series starting, and the Doak Walker Award, and the SMU Athletic Forum. And all my friends were going off and getting these high-paying jobs in the legal world, and I just kind of started all over and said, I really want to do that. And I became the head of the Tate Lecture Series when I guess I was 26 or so, and the SMU Athletic Forum, and worked under Bill Lively, who was the vice president at SMU at the time, and did that for almost 10 years. And that's when I truly got the on-the-ground training for how to fundraise, how to put on large events, how to be involved with the city, because SMU has such an amazing support system throughout the city, and they've done a really good job with all these people who are moving to Dallas or have moved to Dallas and aren't anywhere near their alma maters, pulling them in through a program like the Tate Series, which is attractive to anybody. And then those people ultimately find their homes within SMU, whether it's the business school or the Perkins School of Theology or whatever it is that floats their boat. So I saw I saw how eager people in the city of Dallas were to put this city on their shoulders and carry it forward. And a lot of them had come from other places outside of Dallas. And a lot of them, because of SMU, ended up making Dallas their home because it just was a user-friendly place. And I felt like they really made all these people from other parts of the country, made our city infinitely more interesting. And they stayed and they started giving back. And I really caught that bug and got interested in it. And so I actually ended up meeting Jody Grant, who was really the founder of Klyde Warren Park, Jody and his wife Sheila. He was on the Tate Lecture Series board of directors. So it ended up becoming a full circle moment when I put on the opening of the park and then ultimately ended up working for him. So a lot of it really comes back to that first job with SMU.
Yeah. So now here you are. You've got a law degree, yet you are not at all or not terribly interested in practicing law. Did you make that known to your parents and everybody and let them know that, look, I know I got this law degree, but I don't think I'm into this, and I think that there may be something else out there for me? And how did they react to that? So
it's when I was in my third year in law school, my mother died. And she had really been the one who was pushing it. So I think that's an interesting point you raise. I don't know what I would have done had she lived, because I think she probably would have expected me to practice. It kind of gave me a whole, earth-shaking opportunity to figure out something different. And I chose a much different path almost immediately, where I was literally making probably 20% of what my friends were making. But because of the starting over and the building it back up, I just learned so much. My dad was, I think, fine no matter whatever I did.
Yeah. What did your friends say?
I think my friends knew me well.
Were they encouraging, or did they look at you and go, man, what is her trip?
No, I think that they all knew that was probably what I should be doing. But again, I remember part of what I do, right, in addition to the fundraising and really logistics planning, part of it is event planning, right? Or that's what I was doing. So when I was head of all the events for Super Bowl 45 when it came. And as you said, I put together a company that helped put on the men's Final Four when it was here. But I remember hearing a friend of mine in college talk about wanting to go into event planning. And I said, what is that? I didn't know that was a thing people could do. And I just feel like, and I have two daughters now who are 24 and 20. And there are just so many career opportunities that are available now that we didn't know about because of obviously all the tech and everything. I will tell you, though, that going into nonprofit was a choice I made intentionally, and really my entire professional career has been nonprofit because I wanted to get married and have kids and have the opportunity to just have a more well-rounded life. And I saw my friends, including and my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, and then my fiance, and then obviously my husband. I mean, just the long hours that my friends were working was not conducive to the type of life I wanted to have. And so I think women now can do all different kinds of things, but back then it was a very intentional choice to pursue the nonprofit route. And I wanted to become head of something.
Yeah.
Instead of having all these people fighting for a partner position, I got the bug also to be in charge of something. And I really felt like I could affect change and have an impact more than if I was just within a structure of the types of organizations I was involved with.
That's really neat. You saw a path off the beaten trail. You took it, stayed with it, and now here you are.
Being interviewed by Mike Rhyner. I've made it.
It's pretty magical, isn't it?
It really is, isn't it?
I'll have to tell you one thing. So when I was in 8th grade, growing up in Dallas, I took a mass media class, and I was obsessed with the zoo, and I listened to it all the time.
Oh, no.
All right.
And I
Did I come out there? Did we come out there?
no, you probably did. I was I went though, and I interviewed John Rohde. My friend and I went and interviewed him. And I remember we were sitting there, and we were, how old would we have been? 14 or something. And I remember he was sitting there, he's smoking the whole time, and his ashes were really long, and they kept dropping on his jeans. And I was fascinated by by the ashes like piling up on his jeans. But he could not have been nicer.
Very roady.
Yeah. And I even remember I had the 45 of the song, the life is a zoo.
And we're all inside.
Just a rock and roll zoo. Crank it up. I loved it. So anyway, I've been, and I was a P1, so I've loved seeing all the changes with Dallas, and I've followed your career obviously, and been a fan for a long time.
How about that, Shoopy?
I'm blown away by that, Shoopy. I feel like I've made it now. I really do. The great Kit Sawyer knows who I am.
Maybe they'll dedicate a section of Klyde Warren Park to you now.
All right, can I talk to you about fundraising a little bit? Because now that's a big thing in this world that we live in, but I don't understand it. I don't understand what goes into going to people who are usually pretty wealthy and say, hey, give me money for this. What kind of makeup does that require? Are you nervous when you're going to meet with somebody and talk to them about this? Or have you done it so much by now that you just know what to do?
I hate asking people for money. I hate it. I think some people do love it. Again, my experience, I never was a professionally trained fundraiser. I don't even know. I guess that existed. That kind of training existed when I was coming up.
Does it now? Does it exist now?
For sure. There are degrees, and sports marketing didn't exist, right? I remember I was a speaker at a sports marketing class at SMU, the very first ever, and I think probably one of the first in the country that they had when I was running the SMU Athletic Forum. But, that stuff just wasn't around. So I had to raise money for the Tate Series and the SMU Athletic Forum to make these programs happen. And the people who I was talking to and who I was already involved with wanted to make them happen too. So I really have always had the approach that it's more about partnerships and something that's honestly, as much as possible, certainly with corporations, mutually beneficial.
Yeah, a two-way street.
Yeah. So, and I will say Dallas has got to be one of the most generous cities in America. It just is. Look at our former athletes who stay here and give of their time. I learned during Super Bowl that doesn't happen in every NFL city, for example. But that being said, the banks, for example, they have to give a certain amount of money away, and they have to do by law, right? They have to. They have to kind of meet certain federal standards, and so in partnering with a bank, I really customized absolutely everything I do. So if you were head of a bank and you knew you had X amount you were supposed to give away, what I'd say to you is, what are your goals this year? Like, what do you all want to do philanthropically? What has the best ROI for you all anyway? You know, because I don't have a development officer at the park. I'm Chief Executive Officer, Chief Development Officer, and Chief Operating Officer. I mean, we're a nonprofit, right? We have 1.3 million visitors a year, but we only have 17 on our staff total to do everything regarding the park, and 1,300 programs a year and all that. So I don't want to have to be going back year after year with my hand out. I want you to finish the last thing you've sponsored and immediately be planning for next year with me. So I look for strategic partnerships. So I might come at it a little differently, but what I would do with you is say, all right, if you're trying to accomplish, if you want to have employee engagement, you know, you're looking for things to do with your employees, and you want some branding because maybe you've got this new thing you want your name on, and maybe you want some hospitality, so it would be good for you to take your clients to one of our things, then I would put together a little package that lists all that and say, okay, here it all is. This probably, you know, you have to spend this anyway. This will probably, you've got to take these people out to dinner anyway. You know, this will probably offset. So I really try to walk somebody through how it's almost not as much, it's money they're kind of planning on spending anyway, as much as possible.
So the whole thing is kind of a process.
It's a process. And then you get people involved, and then they start thinking of things on their own. It's a little bit like what I said about SMU. People go through the door, and then they start finding their own path. And then the fish now jump in the boat a lot now. You know, they'll come to me and say, hey, we want to do X, or, you know, what are your thoughts about this? But that's my way of doing it. You know, it's different from Bill Lively's way of doing it when he was raising money for the AT&T Performing Arts Center and the whole Dallas Arts District and Super Bowl. He was much more of a rainmaker. You know, I'm much more of a kind of collaborative strategist to figure out how do we do this together.
Yeah. I guess everybody who does this, do they have their own way of doing it? Is that something you kind of learn as you go along, the way that's best for you?
I assume so, yeah, because to me it just has to be, it has to be authentic, right?
Yeah,
Kind of no matter what. And I also, having been a development officer, a lot of times people don't like to deal with the development officer because that's like the hired gun. They want to deal with the head of the organization or the person who really feels ownership for the organization. That's who they want to partner with. So I think I learned that as I was doing this. But I assume everybody has their own way. But yes, there's certainly best practices and there are things that everybody kind of does. I just have never really done things by any kind of playbook.
Yeah. As I looked over your bio, one thing that really jumped out at me, because I remember it so well, and the thing about it is everybody else remembers it very well, but everybody remembers it for one thing and one thing only.
I know where this is going.
I think I do too.
Then tell me.
The what?
Then tell me, where am I going with this?
The weather for the Super Bowl?
That's where I'm going. I mean, it was a great event. It was a great event. You guys did a bang-up job stringing it together, and then to get hit with that kind of weather at that time. For that long, and have that being the one thing and the only thing that everybody who was there remembers about it. That's a bummer.
Yes.
That is a real bummer. What were your thoughts as you were watching all that unfold?
So, you know Tony Fay well.
I do.
My former business partner, and when I was head of all the events for the Super Bowl host committee, he was head of all of our PR and media. I vividly remember that we'd been dealing with the weather. It was really twofold. It was the weather and then one other thing. The weather we just couldn't believe, but we rerouted, we made things happen. I mean, the whole goal was to take advantage of the stadium being in Arlington to unite North Texas, right?
Yeah.
Bill Lively's vision was we had a mayor's council that was like 124 mayors or something, and Fort Worth and Dallas and Arlington, their mayors were working together, and the cities were working together, and it was really, we were carrying this banner of regionalism, right? We were going to make this happen.
Right.
So going to the host committee party at Billy Bob's in Fort Worth the Thursday night for the Super Bowl and slip sliding all the way, to get there and all the way back was tough. My most vivid memory though was I was finally done with all my events. We'd had the media party, which you probably remember was at the oh gosh, now I'm at the
Southside Ballroom, right?
no, it was
no,
what's the House of Blues?
House
It was
of
the House of
Yeah.
Blues.
Yeah.
And you would open up the door to let people in, and it was just like whoosh. It's just like wind would just blow in, and we had all these barbecue places that were coming in from all over Texas, and half of them got stuck on the highway somewhere. But we made it through that. We made it through Friday. Made it through my Football Writers Association dinner on Saturday night, and I was at some party with a bunch of my friends. I was like, I'm done. I have nothing to do with the game, whatever. And we're all dancing, and I was finally kind of relaxing into it. And I get a phone call from Tony Fay, and I'm on the dance floor. And it was like a Stoli party or something, right? I mean, I'm having a good time, and I'm on the. And Tony's like, "Are you sitting down?" I'm like, "No, I'm dancing." And he says, "We just found out there will not be enough seats for everybody who's coming to the game tomorrow." Do you remember that whole thing when there weren't enough seats and then the lawsuits and all that?
Oh yeah.
And I remember sitting there or standing there, looking all around the dance floor at all these happy people thinking, okay, I'm the only one in this building right now, this huge party who knows there literally will not be enough seats tomorrow. So that was more, frankly, in my opinion, I just didn't know what to do about that. Then,
Well, what did you do about it?
well,
Was it?
I mean, it wasn't a host committee thing. It was kind of it was weather related. They
Yeah.
couldn't quite finish the construction, but that was in the days. We've all now been out there where there's lots going on in the end zones, but this was the first huge thing they were doing in those end zones, since they were building stands in the end zones because Jerry wanted to make it the largest Super Bowl, in history or whatever. And it was all set up to happen. It just those bleachers didn't quite get done, or that seating didn't quite get done in time, or it was done and the NFL didn't approve it. It just was too tight of a deadline. So it totally took the wind out of our sails. I mean, we'd been working for 2 years on making this an experience that everybody could touch, even though they weren't all going to be able to, couldn't afford tickets to the game, right? They weren't all going to be able to be in there. And it had been nothing but really positive, feel good stuff. This was going to be the best ever. And then that happened. So it was, and I remember someone from the NFL after the party said to me, after the game said, "Well, we probably won't see you again." I thought, and they haven't, right, since then. Now, luckily, the men's Final Four came back. Coincidentally, it was cold then too. I don't know how that happened. Tony Fay said to me, "I think Dallas has officially become a cold weather city as far as the media is concerned, based on these two events." But then we started.
Let them come down here in August and
Exactly.
see how they like it.
Then we started settling into ourselves and got past it. So I think, like anything, you just move on. But it was pretty tough for everyone involved.
Do you think we will ever see another Super Bowl?
Absolutely, for sure we will.
Yeah, I do too.
I mean, it was just such a brand new state. You know what I mean? I don't know what to say. We will definitely see another Super Bowl. It's too beautiful of a facility not to.
Yeah, but it better happen fairly soon, because the new stadium is not going to be so new anymore, and the NFL does like new for their Super Bowls.
Yeah, and if they make him put up curtains, then he'll tear the damn thing down anyway.
Yeah, that's right. The curtain story will raise its head once that rolls around, and what are we going to do about that?
I don't know.
The interesting thing, one of the things I do love about that stadium, though, being an event person, is they really did think through this stadium is going to be more than for just 12 home games a year of a football team, right? I mean, obviously we saw the fight out there the other night, and I mean, and all the concerts and everything. I mean, that has really been an amazing addition. Now that they've got it figured out, it has been an amazing addition to.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great facility to have for not just football games, but big events like that fight, and you mentioned concerts, and I think everybody's been to a show there that they find pretty memorable. So yeah, I mean, I didn't know how I liked it very much at first, because I'm kind of here with Texas Stadium and the ballpark and all those places. I hate to see those places go,
right,
especially when it seems like they've got good years left in them, but that's that's the nature of the beast these
Yeah.
days.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I guess it's just one of those life goes on things. All right, now of all the things you've done, all the things you've been involved in, kid, what is? I want to know your favorite. I want to know the one that is most meaningful to you. Those two may be one and the same, but if they're not, give me both.
Well, I did love the whole Super Bowl experience and working on the men's Final Four and really helping put on things that were so new to the region, that were national events, and bringing, national eyes to Dallas in a really positive way. The SMU Athletic Forum was a little bit like that too, because SMU had only been, it was started really fairly soon after the death penalty, and
Yeah.
SMU was only in the media, certainly in the sports section, in a negative light. Who knew, just with all the NIL stuff, how just ahead of their time they were. But
They just try to get a little jump on things.
yeah, exactly. I mean, there are a lot of early adopters. Of
Some good
things
foresight,
that.
really.
Yeah, exactly. It really was. I
Yeah.
mean, they were just ahead in the wrong time. So I really loved all that. The one that's been the most meaningful. And also just running the Tate Lecture Series was incredible. I mean, it was in the days before people were quite so worried about liability. So I would go pick up the speakers and drive them around. So I literally rented a van, and I'd never driven a van before, and rode Stephen Hawking and his entourage around for 2 days. Because when they came and stayed, I took them to Chip's Hamburgers when it was over, the old one. That was, I mean, that's what we were talking before we went on about these amazing pictures you have behind us and all the people you've met and things. And I wish I'd done a better job keeping track of that. But, all the people that I got to meet through, I drove Colin Powell in my car. I drove
Yeah.
General Schwarzkopf in my car, in the car that we would get. And I would just drive them around.
What restaurants did you take them to?
I didn't. It was only because Stephen Hawking was here for so long that and they wanted to go have hamburgers, and I was like,
Nice.
all right, I know just the place.
What
I
did
also-
he get?
Did he enjoy chips?
Yeah.
Well, he loved it, yeah, and he was hysterical. I mean, he obviously didn't say much during dinner, but he was always had this huge smile on his face, and he was fed his food, and he loved every minute of it. They loved to drink. He loved to drink. They had a great, a great British group, and they were all wanting to drink our beer and have margaritas and everything, and they had a ball. So I do remember that. But the one that has been the most meaningful has definitely been the park. To be, I put on the opening of Klyde Warren Park 12 years ago, and then went and had another job. They talked to me at that point in time about being the president and CEO, but Tony and I, frankly, had just signed the men's Final Four. And we had our business, and we really wanted to do that. And so I ended up wrapping up. We kind of wrapped up our business. I went to become head of development for United Way of Metropolitan Dallas, and then at a certain point, I kept looking back at the park, and it ended up being the right time for them and for me to come back on. So I feel like I feel like Tony and I both kind of helped birth that place. I mean, for the grand opening, we wanted to teach people how to use this space.
Yeah.
It was modeled after Bryant Park in New York, which was developed by a guy named Dan Biederman, and it was the first programmed park really in the country. So, because Dallas has tons of parks, tons of trails, right? We have beautiful places, but unless you have like a rec center maybe that's part of it, these parks weren't programmed, right? There weren't free activities going on all the time. And Bryant Park did that, and they have, a huge kind of holiday market with an ice skating rink and everything each year now, and they have all sorts of different activities. So when Tony and I were hired to raise the money to put on the opening of the park, we raised about $1 million to do that. And then we worked with the staff at the time to do all these different programming opportunities. We had and I'm sure you came to some of it. We had the Polyphonic Spree, and we had Trombone Shorty perform. We had a movie, a movie one night. We had all sorts of different things because we wanted to show people this is what this means. No one had used that term programming for a park until Clyde Warren Park. So to be able to birth that a little bit and then to come back and be in charge of it, and now also be focusing on our expansion and then just using it not only as the place that, as you said in your opening remarks, unites uptown and downtown, but has really created a central core, like a town square for the city of Dallas, almost and beyond, has been I'm going to do it until I retire. It's been incredibly, as a native Dallasite, Baylor baby, been incredible for me to be part of that.
And you think you will do it until you retire?
I hate to tell you, I'm not that far away anymore. I think so. I'd like to if they'll have me.
Well, I can't imagine. I can't imagine our Fairburg and that whole civic-minded side of it without you in it, because you've always been a major part of it. You know, even though I heard your name long before our paths ever crossed, long before I ever met you or anything. And I just can't imagine anything like that going on without you. But I guess there are all kinds of other people like the aforementioned Tony Fay, a longtime great pal of mine. And now I guess there's kind of a pipeline of people who want to get into this kind of thing, and you show them the way.
There are more than 70 what are called deck parks, meaning over a highway, stitching communities back together, being modeled after Clyde Warren Park around the country right now. And they visit all the time. Atlanta has 3 they want to do. Austin's working on a big one. And some of these are, our park, bless you, is about 5 acres. And some are like 30 acres. So it'd be like the equivalent of 6 Clyde Warren Parks, right, over the highway. That would be Austin.
Yeah.
So it is really, who ever in a million years would have thought all these people would be coming to Dallas to check out green space, to model it after us. You know, we are not known for our green space. And this is a little postage stamp of a park, right? I mean, it's just 5 acres. But even getting to now see the park, which was called Southern Gateway, it's now going to be called Halpern Park next to the zoo, that deck park, what they're doing down, at the Trinity River with Simmons Park. There's just a lot of that coming about. The loop that's going to connect, all of Dallas with the bicycling path, like 40 miles. It's a really exciting time to be here and be part of that. But you're right; they're coming out of the woodworks. This whole rails to trails movement is greening up our country.
It needs it.
Yeah,
it does need it. Let's add a couple of other things.
One thing, just real quick to add to that, if you don't mind. So I remember during COVID, I was doing research about how to keep Clyde Warren Park involved, because the city initially asked me if they could do testing, for people to see if they had COVID, and I said, no, thank you, because we're a privately run park, right? So Clyde Warren Park is set up kind of like a PBS, like we raise money from individuals and foundations and corporations, and we push out free programming to the community. But we have the city owns the property, but we have to kind of agree together to do things. And I remember thinking, we want people who are well to come to the park. We want to give them a space. And I started doing some research to try to figure out how to do that. And we ultimately ended up doing the thing where we painted the circles, on the lawn and kept everybody apart. But one of the things I discovered was that after the Spanish flu was prevalent, that's when all these incredible promenades around the country that were built, it was because people even back then realized being indoors was not as good as being outdoors, that they were getting less sick outdoors than indoors. So I really do think a lot of this greening up of the U.S. is kind of a post-COVID silver lining, because there is just a renewed desire for green space, which has taken on almost an urgency. So call me polypositive, but I think that's the silver lining of the pandemic.
You have to be polypositive to do what you do. I mean, there cannot be a discouraging word, can there?
Well, there's a lot to be excited about, so I don't get discouraged too easily.
Now, one thing you've got going on down there is a tree lighting. Tell us about that. When's that coming down?
So Saturday, December 7th is it's always the first Saturday in December is our annual tree lighting event. We light the mayor's tree, so Mayor Johnson will be there. We have a performance in the afternoons from 4 to 7 p.m., and we will have tens of thousands of people out there to join us. And we will have a performance, kind of a shortened performance of the Nutcracker Ballet, which is important. I grew up, my dad lived in New York, and I grew up going to see the Nutcracker every year. And so it's been important for me to provide the Nutcracker to the community because it was such a part of my Christmas tradition that, and a lot of people don't know it, don't get to see it. And you should see those kids sitting there just mesmerized with all the performances. And then also within that 3-hour window, we're going to have Emerald City Band performing. So they're going to wear Santa hats and do some holiday songs in addition to their traditional kind of cover tribute songs. And it should be a fun night.
Well, as it happens, I saw Emerald City at their 40-year show Friday night at the House of Blues.
Yeah.
They are in fine form these days. You will not be disappointed one bit with them.
Dina's the best.
He is the best. Can't wait to have him on here. Well, Kit, this has been a blast talking to you.
Well, I want some witnesses on air. I do have a question to ask you before we wrap up, if that's okay.
Okay. All right.
So on Saturday,
I didn't do it. I didn't say it.
On Saturday, May 31st, we're starting a new concert. We're going to do an all-day festival with tribute bands, cover bands, tribute bands. I'm struggling with names. I've considered Parkapalooza. That's my most recent one, or Cover to Cover. But it would not be an event in Klyde Warren Park for Dallas tribute bands if Petty Theft were not part of it. So I would like to extend an official invitation to you to join us that day as one of our bands if you would like to, clear your calendar and join us.
Well, if I can clear that calendar, then that calendar will be filled by Parkapalooza.
Thank you.
Or whatever you wind up calling it. We will be there.
Great. Thank you. We'd love
You
to
have my word of that.
All right.
Been a blast talking to you.
Thanks for having me.
Kit Sawyer, the president and CEO of Klyde Warren Park. Thanks to Shoopy, Ashley, Mickey, Becca, everybody else who's been a part of this. This is your dark companion. Bye.
All right. I'm gonna go take my pants off.
Your Dark Companion is a Stolen Water Media presentation.